my impression of this MCO, the way how the government is implying or trying to say we are in a lockdown. This lockdown of ours, like my impression of it is like a rare state because the elites are enjoying it, but the ones who don't are us, the ones who can't afford, the ones who are actually suffering to live another day, to make sure that we have another pocket money, and to make sure that we have food on our plates for another month. Yeah. So before I start, it's like if I ever like gone suddenly, like who knows, the next episode, like after this episode is uploaded and the next episode is gonna be like way too long, like 2 or 3 weeks or probably a month gone. If that happens, the probability of me in jail is high but yeah, who knows, because if that happens, because this episode is probably I'm going to talk smack and shit about how the government is handling this pandemic, because we are handling it like very badly. It's embarrassing that we got that not fame, the recognition. Oh, congratulations, Malaysia, you're one of the best countries to handle it properly. That is true. It was actually true. We were handling it nicely, but what happened afterwards is actually, there are cases or instances that happen, and I'll go to that. So if I ever like suddenly gone, and probably if I'm in jail, who knows? That shows one thing. One thing is that we are governed by easily butthurt, dumb ass baboons that cannot take feedbacks, and they do not want to listen to our voices, because we are the ones who are actually suffering while they are actually like, this is life, we are actually okay. And that is very corrupted. And yeah, they try to cut they try to take away our freedom of speech. That is one thing that I want. That would prove that if I'm suddenly gone, I mean, if that happens, if you need to confirm, like message me, DM me like, Hazel, are you in jail? If I reply, then I'm okay. If I'm not replying, then I don't know, help me. Yeah. So, hello there, you're listening to Zolimoli's Thoughts and Arts podcast, where I talk about the things that actually bothers me, especially we are in the middle of pandemic. A lot of things are actually too bothering to not be open up. And one of it is how this country is actually handling the COVID-19 cases, the way they implying like the SOPs when it's actually very loose. And I'll go to that also. I will get to that, how there's double standard in like, oh, the Menteris are getting away by not really, wearing masks or dining or eating at a random restaurant freely, when the ones who are getting fined and jail for 5 months are the ones who are actually struggling and can't afford to pay or to live another month without having to work their ass off. Yeah. So before that, also previous episode I was like very bumped about podcast duration, and I'm like very bummed, like very like depressed. And I was like thinking that after that episode was uploaded, Zul, it's your podcast, you can do anything you want. And guess what? Podcast duration, if I have to talk long hours, fuck it, I can do that. Because why? If it's an important thing to talk about, if I feel like I need to talk a lot of things about it, then Dipersilakan, it's your podcast. You have the freedom to talk about it, so I can, and yeah, fuck it. And also it's because it's a miscommunication between me and my mom. She kept on like asking, make shorter podcasts, when actually she just wants me to clip and make something like, oh, this part is actually interesting, then cut it, put it somewhere. But yeah, miscommunication. The way she thinks is that her thinking is faster than her mouth can actually catch up. And I cannot blame that, because that's how fast thinkers actually think or work. Because yeah, it's hard when you're constantly like, oh, I need to catch up on this, and I'm like, oh crap, distracted with the miscommunication. That is all. But yeah, if I were to talk long hours, I won't be like bumped about it, because you know what? Mantap lah, it's my podcast. And Zol, also, you do not control your listeners, okay, Zol? I'm talking to myself. Because it's your podcast, you're doing it for yourself. If people are actually listening to your podcast, then it's their freedom to actually listen, whether if they want to listen from the very beginning till the end, or they want to stop here because why everything's getting boring. I mean, it's their freedom. I mean, you don't control people. Yeah. So, I prompted a question from the previous episode, and I put it up on Instagram story also, so that I can get responses. But out of 528 people who saw that story, only two responded. And at first I was like, very, should I talk about this? No one's gonna listen to it, because no one's actually very interested to talk about or to listen about it. And as I like, oh, I think I worded the question wrongly, because the question that I prompted was, what's your take on employment, self-employment, and being the employer during this pandemic? That is the question. And I realized one thing is that my circle, my audience, or the ones that I know, we do not use the word employment. Like if we do like this, like dengar that perkataan kan, like employment, I'm not gonna open up, because that is too schema, that is too formal. Like you're putting yourself above, very, because if in terms of like trying to listen to people, or like to fish out what they are feeling, to know, for instance lah, if I'm the counselor and then you're the student, and number one is one thing that I can guarantee is that if I were to ask, are you getting bullied by other people, how's your study, bagai kan, all that question, the sekolah always question, the student won't actually say anything. They won't open up 100%. They'll be like, yeah, I'm okay actually, but you're bleeding. Yeah, it's just jatuh tangga je. And that's the idea of like, if you're opening up, if you want someone to open up, be on someone's level, at their level of like wavelength of thinking, or their situation. Like for instance, like can probably just bring to makan and just house life. Definitely, because at that point, since we're using the same example between a student and counselor, the probability of opening up is pretty much higher, rather than using like a very formal environment in an office. So how's your study? If you put yourself up like above people, then definitely you don't really open. That is what I think lah. And it may be true. If it's not, then who knows? It's just my take on listening to people. Be at the same wavelength. Itu sahaja. So yeah, the actual question is, how's job hunting during this pandemic, or during this COVID-19 era? Very casual. It would have gotten more responses, but you know what, it happened and I'm recording it. And plus also, one of the reason why I was like, it feels empty, it feels very bosan. And I realized also that the bigger question is that how difficult it is to live now during this COVID-19 era period or pandemic, like is and that's the actual question. But since I prompted that question, I'll be going there first and then I'll expand more. So since there's just two responses, then I'll just read that because hey, why not? I mean, obviously dah kan, dah don't respond then baca lah Zul. The first one is that it's stressful during this pandemic time because no good companies wants to hire you. Yes. And second is when companies realize they can be automated. RIP college graduates. Here's the thing. I mean, I really don't know how to expand on that, but the part where it's no good companies wants to hire you. The ones who are actually struggling, and I mean it's true, but one thing that because I'm also applying bagai semua tu, it's not just the ones seeking for a job is struggling that are struggling, but also the employer is actually struggling, or any studios or company again. Because okay, if I were to go to like the job seekers, the job hunters again, us uni graduates or the ones who are jobless trying to find a job, we are actually, if you're on LinkedIn and compared to like previous years before the pandemic hits, the competition between the ones who are seeking jobs are actually lower because there's this thing called, oh, I want to work here, then you just go there, but now everything is online. Then LinkedIn is one of the platforms to find a job. Then true, and because of that there are more people on that platform trying to get a job. Like, oh, if you're on that website, there's this thing, how many are applying for it, and as much as, oh, there's very low number, but but how does it? It's like it's still high because even if it's better if you compete like one-on-one, like contohnya lah. If you're competing like one-on-one, then the probability of you getting hired is like 50-50. But if there's like 50 people, 50 applicants, then 2% is it? How mathematics works? How the percentage work? 2% probability lah kan? Send help. So yeah, there is a lower probability of you getting hired because and also it varies. Not everyone gets the same probability. Also, your skills and experience also are taken into account, and that is one thing. And another other than that is that why are the employers, companies, studios are also struggling is because first they have this idea where they also have the responsibility to give jobs to hire people because we are struggling. Then they need to give like opportunities and chances to hire someone, but at the same time we, like most of us are financially not doing good, and that's what explains the salary reduction, the what do you call firing, not refiring, unpaid leave, those terms where whatever, there's a lot of terms regarding that category, but it equals whatever the terms is again, it equals to not getting paid or getting lower wage. And also like another point that I'm going to point out is that if you're like searching for jobs right now, as much as they want to like hire, not really random oh, you're suitable for this, I can, but at the same time you need to consider also, we need to hire people who can actually work. Like, experience, like experience as in how good are you with this and this. And also, if you're asking like, what about the use of experience? There is a way for you to actually go around it, and this is not really a good thing. I'm not gonna open up. I'm not gonna open up on that because you need to find it out. Unless if you want to know, then DM me. I'll tell you how to go around that years of experience, because it's not lying. The method that I learned is not lying. It's not like, oh, I have 5 years of experience when I just graduated. Since when? No. There is actually not really buku or a proper answer lah. But interviews are very one way to confuse the ones who are actually getting a job, is what I think lah. But unless you have the confidence and the one way or another to like go around or to answer, then pretty much you will get hired. Is what I think. Also, where was I again? Oh, higher position for a lower wage. Yeah, they were. If you're like seeking for a job, you will see a lot of like, oh, this position is very like senior yada yada, senior yada yada. Like when it's open to like entry level, or it's very weird because when they're like hiring for a very high position, like kind of high lah, you don't know where the hierarchy is like, but then it seems like kind of high, not just an internship, but they're paying a little bit lower. But who are we to question it right now? Like, because we are in the middle of crisis to begin with, and we are in no place to actually question, because at least we want to have like a source of income. We will work and we'll have a source of income. Not only that, we do not want to be like, oh, I'm not doing anything. That kind of leaves a guilty feeling to those who are actually duduk rumah without anything. But at the same time, I heard a story from my mom's friend. I don't know if you're okay. To be blatantly put the story out instead of filtering, you're staying with your mom, yet you smoke and vape, but that money that you buy and that money comes from your mom, and you're not actually working, you're actually leeching off your parents when your parents are actually struggling to make sure there's cukup duit in their bank to live another 3 months, and you're leeching for vape and smoke like cigarettes. If you're paying for yourself, then dipersilakan. I don't really mind. Lantak lah, you want to go. I'm not going to like, because you're using it on your own account, then fine. But if you're leeching on people who are struggling, then guess what? Fuck you. Because have a sense of like, Nila, like seriously, have a sense of, how do I say, of guilt, that and a sense of responsibility that we are actually struggling right now. And if you're like living the life by leeching off people, don't be surprised if I ever meet you. I'm going to punch you in the face, because that's the only thing that I can do. I get that from my dad. If he thinks something is very not fair, will actually start throwing punches or start yelling, which is very weird, or is a very weird, not really weird lah, how do I say, it's a very weird trait coming from a very quiet me. Yeah. So as much as we're covering about job hunting again, since the scope was very small, that is why there's very lesser respondents again, lesser people sharing what they feel again. The another scope that I actually forgot is that, what about the ones who are studying? Because there are a lot of people who are still studying, and if the ones that I know or the ones that I follow or the ones that are the same age as me, or the ones who are from my high school, most of them are still studying or just baru graduated. And that is where I was like, I should have targeted a larger group in order for me to get a larger number of response. Yeah, that is where I need. But the question is, how about the ones who are studying? And I do not know, because one thing I know, the online classes, online meetings in general, anything online is like not really useless, but it's not effective. Because if you're planning to like have long hour of class the same way, like usually 3 hours in class in real life, and then you try to put it like in online meetings and online classes, then it's impossible, because the idea of interaction is not there. Angkat tangan, and you can cut people's conversation. Oh, what about this, sir? What about this, that? And that is not in like the online world, like online meeting and online class. Even meetings, you cannot really cut easily. Like when someone is talking, you cannot cut. Oh, what about this? Because if it's just one-sided of like having to listen to everything, then our attention span, because we are growing and we're getting restless, we do not want to stay put. We want to do something better rather than having to listen to someone to like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this, and then having a lot of meetings when everything is just a pointless blabbering. Yeah, we would it's people who are in the meeting and they're not given the rights to speak up about something. And if you're in that position, pretty much we have this feeling of, you know what, why we have meetings, why do we even have meetings? It's better for me to cook, or better for me to buy groceries, or even to have to work on something that is actually working, and not really just staying put. Because yeah, we are growing, we are getting restless, we are not we're getting anxious about this, because I don't know, we're kind of getting anxious about it. Yeah. And also I saw like another post or article where government or schools are reducing salary wages for school cleaners. And here's the thing, what makes you think that people who are working as cleaners, school cleaners, or anywhere, they have a very bougie life, a very rich life? What makes you think of that? And the fact that you have the audacity to cut their wages, to lower their salary, like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make them even more poor? If that's the point, if that's what you're trying to do, then you're cruel. You're not being human. And as much as you're going to, because we have lower costs and etc, blah blah blah, guess what? The fact that you're cutting from people who are actually struggling and not from yourself is actually very egoistic. You're selfish at that point. Yeah. And I'm like, come on. And I think they say that the government did not allow for people or any institution to lower salaries, to reduce salary from anyone, only to lower the capacity of workers only. That's the only thing that is allowed. I think that, I'm not sure, because I read that and I forgot. But yeah, even if like it's not stated, again, if it's not stated, then the fact that you're not being equal, like equity about it, and like, since if you're living well off, yet you're trying to leech, not really leech, like it's more like to make the ones who are struggling even struggle like even more, then should we? I hope you rot in hell, because you're not thinking properly also. Yeah. And also, the bigger question that I should have asked is that, how bad are we in? like the situation we are in actually. How bad is it? The situation we are in, how bad is it actually? I can like actually cover a lot of parts. Like I can actually, there's a lot of groups that are suffering, not only the ones who are actually seeking for jobs or the ones who are working. Not only that, what about frontliners? What about the hospitals? What about ICU? You know, because this is something just happened recently. Uh, Someone from my college, a batchmate, passed away from accident. She has a small figure, like she's very small, but she got into an accident because not only she's working, I think she, if I'm not mistaken, like she's a rider for Foodpanda. And what happened is that she broke, since she got into an accident, she broke a lot of things like cheekbones, femur, like a lot of parts, and to a point where she's not waking up. So what happened is that if you're in that situation, definitely you will be sent to ICU. But since we're the number of cases, the ones who are actually COVID patients are full, are like, occupies the ICU section, then it made me realize, like, since the numbers are quite high, are very high to be frank, and what about others, the ones who are actually also in need? I'm not trying to like, oh, COVID patients are not important. No, whoever is in need of like to be in the ICU, then they need to be. But the number of beds, the number of capacity, the level of capacity that a hospital can handle is not the whole Malaysia, not the whole country. And even if like you can send people to another hospital, can, if you search for the number of apa, the capacity level of ICU right now, is actually high, too high, to a point it's like it's going above 100 also. And it's like, if you're thinking about it, if you think about it, if a capacity can go above 100, then meaning it's going overboard. Like there's lesser beds, there's lesser space for hospitals to actually not cover, to handle the number of patients. And not only that, we need to prioritize COVID patients, but then what about the others that are actually in need to be like cared intensively, to be in the ICU part of the hospital? And that is kind of scary, because if you think about it, if you have a family member who is like bedridden, yet they are not taken to the ICU, how is, rather than fair, probably it's not fair, kind of, but at the same time, because the number of cases, the number of patients, COVID patients, is at alarm, is very, when I think about it again, it's kind of scary at the same time. Yeah. And at the same time, like, what causes this, like, this? We were very okay, weren't we? Like MCO 1.0, we were very okay. We were handling everything very perfectly, to a point we got like recognition from luar negara, like congratulations, like, but it's embarrassing because we are among the countries that are actually not handling it properly, and even worse somehow. And I think we all know where it start going down. It's the 2020 Sabah election. And I know some people will be like, it was actually important. Yes, it's important, but are you really going to do it at that point, at that time where everything was going okay? Make sure everything is lower than 0 cases, then do it lah. We have like important things to care, rather than your dumbass election campaign to begin with. Like, how are you, like, how dumb can you be to actually make to buat campaign in the middle of pandemic where there's virus airborne, and you're like, you know, under what common sense do you have that you think that, oh, we need to do a campaign, let's break the SOP? And one thing that I also think is very not fair, those who went to the campaign, those who held campaigns, what happened to them? Were they did they get like sued, fined, or were they sent to jail? I was like searching for that like online. No, there was none. And that is where corruption is. And there's double standard in terms of like position between the ones who are in the kayangan and the ones who are actually living as rakyat, as citizen. Because remember when the first, not really the first, when the statement, whoever does not wear mask will get fined, will get sued, not sued, will be fined. And the very first news that popped up is they were like fining a uni student, which when you think about it, like, can a uni student, a college student, can they actually afford to pay that fine? Under what right mind can you think about it? At least just give off like a warning at first. But no, they were like, oh, you're not wearing mask, we're gonna fine you. But what about those menteri? What about those people who are the elites, who are not wearing masks, they're just like going in and out? It's not fair. It really is not fair. And another group of people who are getting fined also, oh, you're not wearing masks, you're breaking the SOP, you shouldn't open shop because you're non-essential. Are machi-machi who are trying to sell food, kari pap, nasi lemak. I mean, it makes sense because we are struggling financially and not a lot of people are going in and out like as usual. It used to be, oh, we can go outside, oh, I want to eat nasi lemak, then we can just buy. But now it's impossible. Then the ones who are actually poor, the ones who are actually struggling financially, it's not fair for you to like fine them and then just send them to jail for 5 months. Okay lah, fine lah. Even if like you do that, might as well just do the same to the menteri especially who broke SOPs. But they didn't. That is where the unfairness like shows. That is where like, wow, corruption is everywhere then. Because what's the point? Not really what's the point lah. It's more of a, in a country, the ones that are important are the citizens, the rakyat. And why are you leeching them or trying to like, it's like a dictator. And congratulations lah. You have like, the hashtag kerajaan gagal, hashtag kerajaan bangsat, hashtag kerajaan bodoh, hashtag kerajaan zalim. You have that 5 goddamn hashtag dedicated to the government. And yeah, it happens not because people are trying to like, oh, that's actually not true. No, it's true because it is shown to the whole world. We are more connected now online. And if you think we are wrong, then if you government, the government is not really open to listen to people, to the voices of people, then might as well don't be there. If we have the power, those people, especially the ones who are in the parliament, because when you watch the parliament arguments and debates, I swear to God, I cannot stand another second to listen another longer. It's like childish. And even if like, since it's like a debate or like trying to like issue this and that. And the thing that I realized, that if you're in a school debate, because I was in a school debate, at least it was more proper. It was more proper. But if coming from like the ones who are actually have power and position, the way they do debate is more childish than school debates, to a point where, since some people say if there's heckling in debate then it's normal, like I don't know, because I quit debate because it's not for me. But if you listen to those kind of thing and like listen to debates, if you can, how do I say it, long story short, the heckling part in parliament comes from old geezers, baboons who are actually very, very not really respecting others. And I find it, wow, betul lah. It is true that we are governed by baboons. Dumbass, butthurt, childish baboons. And if you don't change that, pretty much my statement is true. Betul. I mean, if you like doubt it, try to listen to any video. It's very short, but I guarantee you could not really stand another minute longer or another second to listen till the end. And even if you do actually listen till the end, like, it's because you're frustrated, because what the hell did I even listen? Yeah. Other than that, also, this is also a recent thing, a recent hashtag, a recent campaign. Bendera putih, white flag, raise your white flag. This is something that is done by the citizen, by the rakyat, and because we care. I mean, I'm sure there are people who don't really care, then dipersilakan lah, because majority of us actually want to live another day, because we know you're struggling. Then if we can help, then we help. That is the side of the world that I can see, like that part lah. I know there's another side where people who are actually do not care about it. Then that's, you know what, if you do not care about it, I'm sure you're living the life, you're not struggling. And this is another thing lah. I saw another post, another article by a very religious party, political party, and I don't really like that part on that party, because they're preachers who don't walk their preach. You know the song, practice what you preach, but yet they do not do that. I mean, I just added that final sentence, but yeah, that is how despicable, how much I despise these groups of preachers. Because okay, this campaign, the white flag, bendera putih, is done by us, for us, because we know we are in the present crisis. The government is not the solution, the government is the problem. They do not want to listen to us anymore. They just like, you know, oh, they're actually living easily. Might as well, if we have petition again, cut their whole salary down to our level. That is what I would really, if I have the power to put up petition and then have a lot of people signing it up, then that is one of the petition that I would really put in the middle of this crisis. And yeah, so what happened is that since it is done for us, by the rakyat, the audacity for people who have like positions and roles like above, like ministers, political parties coming from here's what he said lah. This is by Nick Abdo. I'm going to point the name because fuck you. Pray when faced with challenges, not wave white flags. Wow. Like, the fact that coming from a religious person, yet you choose to preach like, oh, pray to God. I mean, true, memang betul. But have you ever heard, how do I say it? I despise people who actually cannot walk the talk. Like oh, you cannot do this, you can't do that, or uh, pushing ideologies or pushing agendas, pushing their ideas of like religion in an extreme way to a point where it doesn't really help. Because, okay, we are a country where Islam is like actually the very first, not very first. I don't know how to put it, but how do I say it? Put away your ego and your ideal way of nikan, because in this we are like, I prefer people who actually take more action rather than people who just because those people who actually banyak cakap always comes from the ministers, the ones who are actually have higher positions and roles, and very less of them are taking action to curb, to control the number of cases, to actually help the country. And even if like, I want to blame the government sangat lah kan, there's always sides of coin. There's always sides where, oh, this is contributing, this is not, this is contributing, this is not. And it's a very hard thing to cover every single one of them, because not only that you're aware of one side only, because you're also not aware of, you are aware but you don't know the story of like, okay, why are you not doing this, why are you doing that. Yeah, you cannot cover everyone's story. That is what I can say, but you can at least point out where the injustice is. And also, to you who said that pray when challenged with challenges, not wave white flags, I take this one quote lah kan. Orang atasan makan daging, orang miskin makan doa. If that is going to help us during this crisis, during this pandemic, it's bad to actually wish for this, but hey, if you're listening to this, I wish you rot in hell. But if we ever meet in hell, or if we meet in real life, don't be surprised if I'm the one to punch you in the face among the 1,000 people who are pissed at you. Yeah. Because I won't really hesitate if I were to throw punches at this point. Because coming from people who are actually living easy, and have the audacity to belittle people who are actually helping the ones who are struggling, then once again, fuck you. Yeah. And another thing is that the reason was that there's this thing called National Recovery Plan. It's a very shaky thing. Because why? The idea, the image that I'm getting from this is a very first draft, a very half-ass plan where the government is trying to cover a very loose SOP with a fancy name, is what I think. Because it's true. When you think about it, the sectors that are open, the ones that, we're in a total lockdown, supposedly, yet everything functions normally. I mean, that's why the SOPs are there, in order for everyone, the people, to live at least normal, to live another day, to actually function in the society, to actually earn money and earn income. That's where the SOP is. But it's too loose to a point where they allow manufacturing sectors to function when that particular sector actually contributes more number of cases rather than the ones that they close, that they tak allow to open. And yeah, that is how loose it is. It's not only it's loose, it's not fair, and also it's very a selfish SOP where even if we are getting fined and we're getting oh, you're not following SOP, you're gonna get a goddamn, you're gonna get apa? You're gonna be sent to jail for 5 months. Then, if that's the action taken, do it equally to the ones who are actually living easily ke atas tu, because it's not fair. I swear to God. And also, I guess we all got this message if you're Malaysian. The indicator for phase 2 to happen for this national recovery plan is that they want the number of cases below 4K, ICU capacity at medium level, and 10% complete vaccination. That is the 3 indicators in order for the national recovery plan to go into phase 2. Here's the thing, let's be realistic. The number of cases, currently we are in 6K. For that number to go to like 4K only or 2K number of cases is impossible. Not really is the reason why I say it's impossible because the number of cases are actually dependent on the number of testing. For you test swab, then that is dependent. And also the fact that we are underreporting, there are lesser people testing for it, shows that yeah, the number of cases can go lower because why we are not reporting a lot more number of tests. That is number 1. And second is that since the because the fact that the indicator is dependent on a very wrong indicator, a very not a very safe indicator, because even if for instance we're going for a lesser number of cases, then who knows, they're plotting, okay, no one's gonna get tested so that we can go lower. Then that is actually corrupted. That is very bad. And also the ICU capacity at medium level. I shared earlier the number of the capacity of ICU is actually overwhelmingly high, and it is really impossible for us to get like a medium level, especially if you like trying to, if I think they're like setting like September or August for that number to go in a short period of time for us to go that goal is actually impossible. It's a very short time because not only you have loose SOPs and loose, it's like that is why this national recovery plan is a very shaky plan. It's as if, oh, this is something that we can use to cover up the loose SOP. That is actually what I feel from it. And also 10% complete 10% complete vaccination. I'm not sure how many are actually vaccinated at this point because I've never seen the numbers nor percentage. But depending, if you're being dependent on vaccine, like I saw or heard, yeah, it's not really a good indicator to depend on, is what I think. So I don't know, I'm getting like losing points or restless or actually losing breath talking too long, since I need to I need to get used to this, because you know what, I will be able to talk long hours, but I think I need to stop here. But to wrap up, what a time to live, right? Because we're in the middle of crisis, in the middle of pandemic. We are losing our loved ones, yet we are not given the opportunity to grieve, because we are also suffering. Everyone's suffering. And also, since there's that Bendera Putih campaign, if you're mentally because I cannot provide financial, because everyone's like, if you're asking for a single person to help a lot of people, okay, not really. Since I cannot help people financially. You can actually get that kind of help from people who are in organizations and doing fundraising or crowd funds in order to distribute aids, something, not really aids, like to provide the help needed. Then the only thing that I can actually offer whoever is actually who is actually struggling mentally, and if you need an ear to listen, a listening ear, if you need a listening ear, my DMs are open. My phone number is also, if you have my phone number, then you can WhatsApp me lah kan, or you can just open up in the comment section, and I know that is very hard to do, so my DMs are open for me to listen to what are you feeling during this hard, and it's a very hard time. Is not a good time, not really a good time, what a time lah. It's a struggle, it's a struggling era, a struggling, what a time to struggle lah selanjutnya. But yeah, if you're ever feeling like I need to talk about this, my DMs are open, itu saja, because no one should ever carry a burden on their own, especially during this time. And also, even if listening to what your story is, what your struggle is, does less, at least I hope, if you do, at least I hope by listening to what you're facing can lift a small part of burden from your shoulder, is what I hope lah. Or what if, since we're using that Bendera Putih campaign, why not we post, because there's an emoji, Bendera Putih, like a white flag emoji, why not put it on your social media? Then people can actually know, oh, are you okay? At least, since opening up is hard, then raise your white flag. Then if people can see, then we can actually approach you to help, even by listening to your problems, or if like people who are very well off or can crowdfund apa kan, then if you put up your white flag, at least we know, okay, you are in need of help. Then do not be ashamed, or do not be embarrassed to raise a white flag during this pandemic, because we take care of each other, because once again we are in a crisis where government is not the solution, because government is the problem. Yeah, I guess that's all from Zoimali's Parts. No, wait, what? I think that is all from Zoimali's Thoughts and Hearts podcast. It has been Zoimali. Bye bye.